I've been a landlord for a couple of years now, running a few properties along the coast, mostly beachfront vacation rentals. Pretty sweet gig, to be honest. But there's one property that frightens me. It's a house that doesn't just hold rooms and memories, but a tangible terror that seeps from its very walls, turning what should be a landlord's dream into an unending nightmare. It's a beautiful old house right on the water. Prime location, all the amenities. It should be a goldmine, but I can't keep tenants in there for more than a month. Every single time something weird happens during a full moon, and the next day, poof, they're gone. The first couple of times I thought it was just a coincidence. People book a vacation, change their minds, leave early. It happens, but then it kept happening. Every full moon without fail. The place would be empty the next morning. Now, I'm not superstitious, but I know strange when I see it. So I started doing a little investigating. I wasn't going to let my prime property go to waste because of some bizarre happenings. The first thing I did was talk to the locals. The house was in a tight-knit coastal town where everyone seemed to know each other's business. But when I brought up my problem, the folks grew quiet, exchanged looks. They clearly knew something but were too scared or unwilling to share. There was one old-timer, though, a fisherman named Old Salty. I know, cliché, right? But that's what everyone called him. He agreed to meet me at a local pub, and over a pint of the town's best, he told me stories. Legends of sea monsters that came ashore during a full moon, of people who disappeared, never to be seen again. I thought he was pulling my leg, but the look in his eyes told me he believed every word. Next, I dug into the town's archives. Going through old newspapers and documents, I stumbled upon a pattern. Every few decades, there'd be a rash of disappearances. Always locals, always during a full moon. They were mostly explained away as boating accidents or people moving out unexpectedly. But the pattern was there, clear as day. I tried to confront the town's mayor, even the police. They shrugged me off, said it was just small-town superstition. But I could see the unease in their eyes. They knew something, but were keeping mum about it. It was frustrating, like banging my head against a brick wall. That's when I decided to take things into my own hands. I decided to stay at the property during the next full moon. I'm a practical man. I figured it was just some local kids pulling pranks, or maybe squatters taking advantage of an empty house. I thought I'd confront them, chase them off. Oh, how wrong I was. How very wrong. There's strange, and then there's unexplainable. What I encountered that night was beyond anything I could have imagined. It was terrifying, sure, but also fascinating in a messed up way. I mean, how many people can say they've come face to face with real-life sea monsters? The night started just like Old Salty's tales. I heard the strange scraping noises, the unsettling splashes from the ocean. It was as if the sea itself was restless, anticipating the eerie phenomena about to unfold. When the power cut out, I was already on edge. The darkness that filled the house seemed thicker, more oppressive than usual. Grabbing my flashlight, I ventured into the basement, the beam of light doing little to penetrate the inky blackness. Discovering the wet, slime-covered basement was a blow to the gut. I knew something was in the house with me, something that didn't belong, something that came from the depths of the sea. The realization was chilling, and for the first time I questioned the wisdom of my decision to stay. But before I could react, I felt it. A sleek, cold presence brushed against me, leaving a trail of icy dread in its wake. Fumbling my way upstairs, I caught sight of the creatures through the glass door. Dozens of them, hulking masses of gleaming flesh illuminated by the moonlight. They emerged from the churning sea, moving with an odd grace towards the house to join the others that had already taken up residence in the basement. I could see their slick bodies undulating, leaving a trail of glowing slime in their wake. Frozen in horror and fascination, I watched as they moved closer, their large, bulbous eyes reflecting the full moon. They weren't like any sea creatures I'd seen before. These were monsters, straight out of a Lovecraftian tale, their grotesque beauty captivating and terrifying in equal measure. I don't know how long I stood there, staring at the spectacle before my eyes, before instinct kicked in. Grabbing my keys and wallet, I made a dash for my car, the sound of the monster's slippery crawl echoing in my ears. As I drove away, I glanced back to see them enveloping the house, their glowing forms casting an otherworldly light. In the safety of my own home, the horror of what I witnessed slowly gave way to a sense of awe. I had come face to face with creatures of legend, behemoths that walked, or rather slithered the earth beneath the full moon's gaze. I had come out of the encounter unscathed, but the experience had left a lasting impression. I felt small, insignificant in the grand scheme of things, a mere human in a world where sea monsters were real. But despite the fear and uncertainty, there was also a sense of wonder. I had witnessed something few people ever would. It was terrifying, yes, but it was also a reminder of the mysteries that lay beyond our understanding, of the ancient, untamed wildness that still exists in the corners of our world. I'm still not sure what to do with my haunted seaside property, but one thing's for sure. Every full moon I find myself drawn to the shore, watching from a safe distance as the tide comes in, and with it, the awe-inspiring creatures from the deep. It's a reminder of that fateful night, a private spectacle of horror and wonder, forever etched in my memory. I can see it from my place, the house a lonely silhouette against the glowing ocean. Sometimes I swear I can hear the faint scraping noise, the distant splashes. I've seen a lot in my time as a landlord, but nothing compares to this. It's made me realize that there are things out there, things beyond our understanding that don't care about property lines or lease agreements, things that just are. But hey, that's life on the coast, right? At least it's never boring.
I've lived in this beach town my whole life. I run a little souvenir shop on the boardwalk, sell postcards, t-shirts, that kind of stuff. It's a quiet life, peaceful even. But this story, it's about the most unsettling thing that's ever happened to me. Our town has this old lighthouse, been there longer than anyone can remember. Folks say it's haunted. Now, I've never put much stock in ghost stories, but since last summer, let's just say I've had to reconsider. It all started when I got this weird customer. He was this tall, skinny guy with a scruffy beard and a wide-brimmed hat. Said he was a photographer, traveling around snapping pictures of old lighthouses. He had this heavy old camera around his neck, the kind that uses film. So he bought some local maps and asked about getting to the lighthouse. I gave him directions and off he went. I didn't think much of it, just another tourist. But then night came and he didn't come back. I got a bad feeling, so I called the local sheriff. Sheriff Jenkins and I went out to the lighthouse. His cruiser's headlights cut through the night, but everything was dark when we got there. The photographer's car was still in the parking area. We called out, but no answer. We decided to search the lighthouse. The front door creaked open and we stepped inside. It was dusty, old, with that musty smell of places long abandoned. The beam of our flashlights danced around the circular room. We saw the photographer's camera bag, but he was nowhere in sight. We climbed the spiral staircase, calling out. When we reached the top, we found the photographer's hat on the floor and his camera set up on a tripod, pointing out of the window, out towards the sea. But there was no sign of the man. That's when we heard it. A low humming sound coming from outside. We looked out the window, and there in the darkness was a faint glowing light out at sea. It pulsed, and with each pulse the hum grew louder. We watched, spellbound, as the light grew closer. As it neared, it illuminated something in the water, something huge, something alive. My heart pounded in my chest and I could see the sheriff was just as scared. We fled down the stairs out of the lighthouse and back into the safety of the cruiser. As we drove away, I looked back. The light was now enveloping the lighthouse, the humming so loud it vibrated the car. We made it back to town and spread the word. For the next few days, no one went near the lighthouse. The photographer was reported missing, but there was no sign of him, not even when the Coast Guard did a thorough search. Ever since that night, the lighthouse stands as a grim reminder of what we saw. No one goes there anymore. We don't talk about it, about the photographer, about the light, about the thing in the water. I've seen a lot in my time here, tourists and locals alike. But that night, that fear, it was something else. Something beyond us. The ocean holds many mysteries, and our old lighthouse, it's a beacon for something we don't understand. I still run my shop, still greet the tourists, but every time someone asks about the lighthouse, I just shake my head and change the topic. Some things are better left alone, and some stories, well, they're better left untold.
Please leave us a comment and let us know what you thought of these stories. Please also like and subscribe. Thank you.